How has North Mississippi Rural Legal Services impacted your life?
Well, I got my start here. I was at Rutgers Law School, and we had what was called the Southern Mobilization Project. And I happened to be director of it, and we sent law students down south before I came, basically to work in the civil rights movement. As I left, as when I came, it was sort of at the tail end, but it was still very active, and I was assigned to work at North Mississippi Rural Legal Services. At that time, I was between Oxford and Holly Springs, Mississippi. And I held various positions. Reginald Haber Smith when it existed, was a fellowship, and it would encourage law students who were interested in social justice. And upon graduation, I was awarded a Reggie. And after that, I became a staff attorney in the Cleveland office, and we helped open the Cleveland office at the time. And from there, I left for a period of time to help establish Southwest Mississippi Legal Services in Macomb, and I was managing attorney. Then I returned to Clarksdale, where I became a managing attorney of North Mississippi Rural Legal Services in the Clarksdale office.
And do you have any great stories about the people you've worked with here at Legal Services?
I have a lot of stories. Wilhelm Joseph hired me into legal services, and he remains a very close friend today. He directs the legal aid of Maryland, Maryland Legal Aid. And I currently am executive director and CEO of Memphis Area Legal Services. And so many stories. I have stories from about Wilhelm and his leadership and leadership style. He's from Trinidad, so still trying to understand. I've known him for almost 35 or more years. I'm still trying to understand him. So if you met him, and you will if you happen to be back, he made a tremendous influence in terms of moving North Mississippi from a legal services organization that had community workers and that sort of thing to a more a law firm model with paralegals who could go to court and not to court, go to administrative bodies and represent clients. I have stories of writing, and I made mention of that in I'm sorry, look at you. Made mention of that in the session in the earlier symposium, where Ben and I were along with I don't know about Wilhelm, but the other person who's a great mentor of mine was Lou Myers, who was sort of the director of litigation. And we were riding in the car, going to a community meeting, and Ben was driving. I can say this now. I didn't want me to say it in there. And it was dangerous during that time. I was a law student then, just getting off. I said off the boat and riding as a law student with these guests to a community meeting. And because of the seriousness of the situation and the danger that lawyers face who are part of legal services, the question arose: do you have your gun? And the I guess funny part of it is that he had it in the trunk. And you can imagine the reaction about his having it in the trunk. It couldn't serve any purpose. I do also remember that through our efforts to mobilize support for legal services, we were able to change the view of legal services by Congressman Jamie Whitten. And Congressman Jamie Whitten was then chair of the Appropriations Committee, which had within its authority to fund legal services. Legal Service Corporation, and Legal Service Corporation in turn gives grants out to legal aid organizations across the country. I remember that there was a lot of opposition to legal services, and we had to really demonstrate that we were very competent lawyers and that we represented ourselves zealously. I also remember being put in situations where lawyers who did not respect it, I had to assert myself in a way that would be against some level of civility in terms of, now we talk about civility of the profession, that sort of thing, but people were not very receptive. So we had to stand our ground and ensure that our clients were protected. And to demonstrate to our clients that because we were legal aid lawyers that we were very competent to represent. When I left North Mississippi Rural Legal Services, I became director of what was then Central Mississippi Legal Services. It's now part of a Mississippi Center for Legal Services. And from there, I went and worked on the Washington level. And all of my foundations here, it sort of planted my seed. Well, I went to Rutgers Law School because we had a reputation of being involved in progressive and social justice issues. So it was a natural fit for me to work in legal aid. So my journey, it was a good fit, and it's inspired me to continue the work that I do today. And it's been, finished law school in '77, so that's what, 38 years.
And what aspect of your work are you proudest of?
Well, I'm an administrator more so than a lawyer today. And I chose that route. Opportunity presented itself. Each time I was maybe thinking about going to private practice, someone offered me a promotion or a job. I think that one case I do remember that really touched me, and it was two cases. One case involved a young lady who was in south of, it was a county south of Jackson when I was director. You mean here or just generally? Okay. And this young lady became pregnant, and she was a cheerleader. And they did not, declined to let her continue to be a cheerleader, but they did not have a corresponding requirement or whatever you want to call it that said that the father of the child who was on the football team would similarly not be able to participate in extracurricular activities. So we filed a case in federal court using Title IX saying discrimination, and because school systems get federal monies, we were able to settle the case, and she ultimately became a cheerleader, and she went on to Mississippi Valley State, and I got a chance to see her as a cheerleader, and now I understand she's a teacher. I even went to her graduation from high school. So you create those bonds. Another case I remember involved when I was a practicing lawyer was a young lady who had been abused by her father sexually, and my then wife, I took invested in this. I would have the children come by my house and feed them breakfast. And my then wife said, "Isn't this going a little bit beyond that?" And there was another case in which they wanted to allege that this woman should not be, fit as a mother because of some allegations that she used resources to have an abortion. And the case went all the way up to the Mississippi Supreme Court, and the court ruled that the money's commingled. You can't just separate it out and say this, it's not. So I was able to prevail, and that's a reported case. But as a leader in the legal service movement, I would say, it has given me the opportunity to help define and shape the kind of work and the standard of practice and the important role that I can play as a leader. I think having this foundation, being mentor for people like working with Ben and Cole, who's director now, and Wilhelm Joseph, helped me become, hopefully, viewed as an effective leader in this movement.
And What difficulties did you encounter that legal workers in the establishment bar did not have to contend with? And if any, how did you overcome them?
I think I alluded to it earlier. It was garnering the respect. For some reason, there was this view that you went worked in legal aid that you were not quite up to snuff as a practicing lawyer. And I've excelled in, I went to Rutgers Law School, which is not a bad place. Went to Morehouse College. I've always excelled. And so, but my commitment and my decision to go in the direction which I have is because of what I grew up in segregation. I grew up working in the tobacco fields of Georgia for, I think, $3 to $6 a day. And while I'm not old, I've lived through a lot and seen a lot. And so, for them now to be visited with those sort of things, even past the 60s, I've always stood my ground and continue to stand my ground that our lawyers are highly qualified and very competent. They come from not only the University of Memphis or Ole Miss Law School, have Vanderbilt, NYU, and UT, and elsewhere, University of Arkansas. So, and we have two people on my staff who have Masters of Law degree. It's called LLM. So it's not, but we were treated, at least initially, as second-class lawyers. So we had to assert ourselves and insist. One of the things they used to throw in our face when we represented clients was that person, you had to be eligible for legal services. When you go to court, well, we question the eligibility of this client, but that's irrelevant because if I have my license, you have your license, you deal with that as external to the actual courtroom. So, but anyway, that's it.
Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, when you reflect on 50 years, it's I think about the people. I think it's something you just interviewed one of the people that I've known from my early days, Eunice Carter, and Ben and Perkins, Representative Perkins. It's just the people that you've met over the years, and you draw from their sense of who they are and their commitment to social and human rights. It's really a human right, and how talking about a human right and civil rights, people, and how in social justice. So I think that these 50 years and the things that I even learned today really impacted me and sort of inspired me to continue the work that I'm doing. I can't do it forever, but as long as I'm effective, I plan to be a voice for those who sometimes voiceless and those who don't understand the system, and help them navigate that system and hold not only myself, but the people who are around me and people who work I guess work for me, but with legal aid, that they have to live up to that expectation, that standard of excellence. And so that's it.